Hope you've all had a good Christmas. Thanks for joining us. Um, Hopefully Lee will be joining us a bit later as well. Fingers crossed. He's got stuck in London, but we've got a great panel anyway. I'll go through them in clockwise order. First, Dan, Lieutenant Dan. How you doing, mate? You're right.
Yeah, man, I'm all good. Thanks for having me on, Andrew. Top man, really appreciate it. Had a wicked Christmas, mate, and I am sober for the first time in a few days. So that's nice.
Wow, I don't know why that is. I don't know why. There's no reason for that at all.
No, there's not, man. I thought I'd try and be professional and respectful for you, mate.
Oh, that's very honoured indeed. And Dan from Tap In Football, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love the show, and always a pleasure to come and feature with you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back on. You've been on once before, as sort of a guest. That was really a short period though when you were on that last time. So it's good to have you on for a whole show.
Sure.
And Ken, how are you? All right?
I'm all good. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a great Christmas. My Christmas present I enjoyed very much. Well, one of them was a Tyson Fury autobiography, and the second one was a Bruised Banana kit, our away kit. So who am I to complain?
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, is that the new release one, or have you got a vintage?
No, it's a new release one. I've never put a hand in my pocket to buy any merchandise. I always have my mother-in-law, my mum, my wife, and they've always been ultimately generous on birthdays and Christmas.
That's well trained, Kenny. That's well trained, mate.
It certainly is, mate. And the new release ones are about 500 quid, aren't they, or something ridiculous? So yeah, you've done well there, mate.
I think they bought me the shirt from yesterday. I don't think they bought me the Bruised Banana kit from 1992-93. I think I'll give it a miss.
I've seen a few of them knocking about on eBay. I've always been tempted, but never taken the plunge. And then Ryan, how you doing, mate? You all right? Good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Yeah, I've had a good Christmas. Let's hope the rest of you guys have had a good Christmas as well. And
yeah, it's been good.
Now.
I know.
Actually excited for Sunday.
Yeah, I'm quite positive. I mean, Chelsea have been in a bit of shocking form lately, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
But I put a question up. Funnily enough, I was just scrolling through Twitter as you do yesterday, and I think it was on the Ask blog. Put something out for any questions because they were just about to record, and I said, why do you think that Frank Lampard is completely and utterly immune to any kind of criticism, considering the shit form they've been in for the last God knows how long? End of October, I think they've only won 2 games, which is a bit shocking. But anyway, it's not a Chelsea show, is it? So quickly, got a lot to get through today, so we're going to start off with our thoughts really on the first game of a new era, hopefully, under Mikel Arteta. I mean, you've probably seen my thoughts on Twitter, but I thought it was a really, really promising performance, to be perfectly honest, with a lot to like. I mean, it's the best performance, I think, of the season so far, which is not saying a lot, I know, but we seemed an awful lot organised, better organised than we have been. So again, I think we'll go around an anti-clockwise this time. Ryan, what were your thoughts initially on the first game for Arteta?
Overall, very impressed. Going forward, the only thing that let me down going forward, I don't know if you guys will agree, was the end product. That's
absolutely.
But apart from that, couldn't complain. The only negative fact is that for some bizarre reason, during that first half, they reverted back to old tactics of playing out from the back, and it backfired, and it done us up the backside, literally. And it effectively cost us 3 points in the end. On another day, we should have won that.
Definitely. I think a bit of a finish.
Every pass was forward. It wasn't like, "Oh, get the ball, we'll go backwards, sideways." It was get the ball forward. And I can't complain.
No, absolutely. I think it's just so nice to actually dominate possession for once and not have the middle of the park for the opposition to run through and pepper our goal with shots all the time. What about you, Ken?
I must admit, I was very happy with the way. I think what Arteta did, which was very impressive, is that he kept things simple. And I think I was got a feeling from watching us play that it was very much like a sticky, put a plaster over the wound type of thing. You know, he's very clever in the fact that by putting Mesut on the side, he made sure that he picked a team so he can be dominate possession, because when we dominate possession, that's when you can get Mesut Ozil into those little pockets and get him in the places where he can't be marked by the opposition. So in that respect, I thought I was very happy. I thought the finishing was, wasn't as great as I'd liked. I think few players lacking confidence, especially Lacazette. He's down in confidence. I thought Reece was lacking a bit of confidence as well.
Yeah,
and I just felt, in terms of people might say, it's only Bournemouth, but you've got to realise is our form before that. We played Bournemouth about a couple of weeks ago, we probably lost that game. So you have to take some sort of positives from there. You know what I mean?
Well, they're at home as well. So let's not forget they're at home, and it's a very, very small, tight stadium, and they're a lot better at home. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'll just echo these guys' sentiments as well. Like, I thought it was really, really encouraging. Like, the best thing about that, I thought, was the fact that, it looked like we actually had a plan of how we were planning to attack, for once. Like, I think the past few weeks, past few performances, a lot of the players, they didn't really have an idea when they actually had the ball to feet. And it looked like, they actually had some attacking plans set out for them. And I'm really impressed that Arteta's managed to get that drilled into the lads, after maybe 3 training sessions. I was really pleasantly surprised as well by what I saw against Bournemouth.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you can see within such a short space of time, you must have been really going through an awful lot of shit with them on the training ground to actually change the performance quite dramatically, I thought. What about Potsy? Now I'm going to call you Potsy for this show.
Yeah, man, call me Potsy. It's easier, man. 2 dance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Listen, I think what you've got to look at, boys, is what Arteta has changed or can change in the first few days that he's been in charge. And I think the 2 things that really hit home for me was how much we had improved off the ball. In terms of us off the ball, we were so much better. Now, we've not seen that under Emery really over the last 6 months, but we did kind of see it when he first came. We started to look a little bit high intensity off the ball pressure, and that was impressive for me from Arteta. The other thing that I noticed was with Maitland-Niles and Saka playing as fullbacks, who are not fullbacks, both played well, I thought, and that was kind of the Pep Guardiola effect. You know what Man City do with Kyle Walker and Mendy when Mendy's fit? They drop into midfield when they've got that midfield get the ball, and that's what I saw yesterday, which was really impressive for me. I thought the midfield was the best I've seen this season. Torreira and Xhaka, that kind of double pivot was working, which I haven't seen work all season, to be fair. And Ozil was actually did turn up. I have to agree with the lads, though. I thought Lacazette was pretty wasteful, and it was a poor performance from him. And Aubameyang's one of those players that mentally, I think he might have checked out a bit, and it could be that he's off or his head's, at Madrid or whatever it be. But he still always gets on the end of a ball and scores. And it doesn't matter how bad or well Aubameyang plays. If you score, then that's why people don't give him as much stick, because he always gets on the score sheet. And he saved us again. And that's why I can't scream at the strikers too much over the last few months like people have, because they do save us. They do get us out of trouble. And Aubameyang's done that again. So overall performance, I could see what Arteta was trying to do there. Tactically, I thought we were better over than we have been in the last few games. And it was just refreshing to see a little bit of fight off the ball and players trying to win it back. The only last thing I will say, I don't know what you boys think about Reece Nelson. I personally don't mind a player who gives 110% and tries. And I think that what he's doing is trying. I just don't think the quality is there personally. And I hope I'm wrong. But out of the youngsters that I have seen, he's the one that has not impressed me, because I'm looking at Martinelli, Guendouzi, who's still young, Saka, even Willock. Nelson, for me, it just hasn't worked out for the lad. And I don't want to give him too much stick because he's young, but the guy has had a full season out on loan like the others haven't. So I was expecting a little bit more from him.
I really genuinely think it's still very early days for him, and people do react to confidence a lot stronger than others, and he's desperately short of confidence. I thought he actually had a decent game apart from the final product, which is obviously very important for someone who's playing in his position. But I do think he's got a lot of talent, and I think that Arteta thinks he's got a lot of talent. You can see what he was doing at the end with giving him a cuddle and walking off and talking to him strongly, giving him a bit of a pep talk. Pardon the pun. But I genuinely, I do actually think he's got something, and I think we could have seen a different Nelson. The goal he scored, which was a great goal, by the way, against Burnley. That was disallowed. If that had been allowed, and because it was no fault of his own, it was disallowed, and he hadn't obviously got a niggly injury at the beginning of the season, which kept him out for quite a while as well. We could probably see a different player at the moment because he still hasn't played that many minutes for the first team in the Premier League. He's missed a lot of the season, hasn't he? So I don't know. I'm willing to give him a bit more time to personally myself. And the criticism that I saw of Saka, I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. Yes, his final ball on the day was off as well, but he's an 18-year-old chucked into the deep end at left back. I think he's done brilliantly for his age, and I've been really impressed with Guy and his mentality and temperament over the last couple of games.
Listen, we certainly haven't missed Kolasinac, put it that way. And this guy's come in and he's not a left back. I will be happily get rid of this Kolasinac guy. I'll tell you that now. So if Saka has to play there and he's doing a good job, then I'll keep him in. And I think it's harsh when these people give young players criticism. When there's a young player who doesn't even play in that position, then really our fan base needs to look at himself, because that for me is a guy who's doing a job.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I always am the type of guy as well who I will very much criticise players when they need criticising, but if they've had a good game, I will tell them they had a good game. And with Ozil and Xhaka, I'm not their biggest fans. I'm sure you probably all know that, but I like to, when they've had a good game, I like to say, well, fair play, you've had a good game today. But I think so many fans, I've said this on previous podcasts, but when you're doing the player ratings and you're starting the match and you're looking at the match, they all start on an even 5, don't they? All the players, and then they go up and down depending on how they play. Well, I think Xhaka and Ozil, they start off on 1 or 2 instead of all starting off on 5, because they've got to do even more to impress people. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's just out of order. I thought Xhaka had a really good game, and I thought Ozil had a pretty good game as well, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what the rest of you guys thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Ozil especially, I think the main question mark has never actually been about his ability or his talent or anything like that. It's more his application and his effort levels and his intensity levels. And I think when he first came to the club, you comparing him to, the Ozil we've seen over the past 2 years, he was playing at a much higher level of intensity than what he's been showing. And then I think, Arteta said, he came out in the press conference, said, his attitude and training has been perfect ever since I've come in. And you have to ask the question, okay, fine. If, he has been capable of these performances, where have these been for the past 2 sort of years? So it'd be interesting to see whether he maintains that level over the next few games, because then you would have to say, and what was wrong with your attitude, since getting that big 350k contract, because everyone's always said that the talent is there with Ozil. And I think with Xhaka, again, people have always said, he tries, he wears his heart on his sleeve kind of thing, gives 100% every time. But I think with him, you can get a good performance like this, but then, that mistake when you're passing the ball to, the opposition in our final third, or, you're diving in 2-footed with someone in our box is always around the corner. So, it's about consistency with both of them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a question from Carrie Tannanen. Hopefully I've said that right. Should Ozil go? And of course we need to get him his wages off the books, but I don't think anyone's going to buy him, obviously. And I think it does annoy me when everyone still brings it up every single time. Oh yeah, but that's not a 350 grand performance, is it? That, even if he puts in a 7 or 8 out of 10, that does annoy me. It always gets brought up, and that's done, isn't it? We can't keep going back and talking about his bloody contract. But I think if we're going to have to keep him to the end of his contract, which I think we undoubtedly are, then we've got to play him, because he's still our best player in that position, no doubt. And so he says, should he go? But it's not that easy, is it? Because even if we get a buy for him, even if we get a loan opportunity for him, he's got to want to go. He could still turn down any move and say, no, I don't want to. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Ken, what do you think?
I think the Mesut Ozil thing is that I've always been his biggest critic as well, Andrew. And the reason why I've been his critic is I generally believe that Mesut Ozil's fallen out of love with football since the situation happened in the World Cup with Germany. The talent is unbelievable. It's the most unique talent I've ever seen for quite a long while, probably since Liam Brady. But I think Mesut's best years was at Werder Bremen, You know, when he was at Germany's under-21s at the World Cup and at Real Madrid. And then maybe for one season in 2013, 14 and 15, 16, that's it. But I think with Mesut Ozil, something Unai Emery said after his departure from the club is that Mesut Ozil is one of the players that you have to accommodate by surrounding him with work rate and pace and, you know, clinical finishers. But when you're in a situation where you're having to get results, you know, like yesterday, and you're playing in a struggling team, it becomes a bit of a liability if he is not playing well and it's not together. One of the consequences of Mesut Ozil is that the conundrum of bringing Ozil back in the team is that we've now pushed out our record signing, Pepe, because we're struggling to find something, you know, trying to get him into the side. Because what's happening is that Martinelli's come through as well. We've got to try and accommodate him. So it's just one of those things where, again, it's the Mesut Ozil question is a question that's been around from day one since he signed the club. Another thing as well, what people need to watch out for is that because Mesut Ozil brings the club a lot of money in terms of commercial value, you can't rule out him getting another contract on that basis as well, because, you know, funny things do happen in football. And, you know, with our lack of success, a lack of Champions League football, merchandise is very much important to the club. So that's the thing. How do we figure out the puzzle with Mesut Ozil?
Like I said, if we could turn back the time and not sign him in the first place, then everyone would. But because we've got him now, and we're stuck with him for 18 months, I just really, really hope that Mikel Arteta can get the best out of him, because if he can, then fantastic. You know, a fit and firing Mesut Ozil is better than not having a fit and firing Mesut Ozil.
I think the thing is with Mesut as well, we can do with some more goals from him.
Oh, absolutely, you know, I agree.
And I think that's one part of his game that I find disappointing, where you've got someone who's a very clean striker of the ball, has no defensive responsibilities, yet he doesn't get on the score sheet enough. He seems to be more satisfied with you know, the Hollywood pass or the assist. You know, a player of that ability should be scoring about 10 or 15 goals a season. That's how highly I rate his ability.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
I think it's a mentality thing as well with Mesut Ozil, because if you give him a mentality of somebody like who was not as technically gifted as him, but mentality wise, you look at somebody
Martinelli.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of players from other teams like a James Milner or a Ray Parlour of old, or somebody like that who had that head, a Gareth Barry, someone who just give 110% no matter what, and they were just consistent with their mentality and their kind of leadership qualities. Then Mesut Ozil could be a fantastic player. I agree with you, Andrew. I think we're stuck with him now. I don't think anyone's going to have him. I think we're just going to have to keep him for that 18 months, and let's hope that we can get the best out of him. And really, the best way to get the best out of Mesut Ozil is to play him in the games where he's going to be good, and that's like Brighton at home or Burnley at home, somebody like that, where they're just going to let us play football at the Emirates. That's where we need to play Mesut Ozil, because we'll win 4 or 5-0. If you're going to play him at the Etihad or White Hart Lane or Anfield, just don't bother, because he ain't going to turn up, and he hasn't for the last 6 seasons. So you know he's been invisible for those. So play him to his strengths, and it ain't doing that. So that's my say on the Mesut Ozil thing.
Just quickly as well before we move on to the other topics. Just one for you, Ryan and Dan. Pepe, when he came on, I thought he looked really good and sharp and dangerous. What did you guys think? It's so odd what's going on there, because I think he's contributed, you know, as a lot to the team personally.
Well, it's like since Unai Emery's left, we've seen a different Pepe now, a more confident Pepe in his own ability. When against West Ham, he ran the game on the Arsenal side of it from the first second to the end. So he came off. I don't.
What's going on there? Because it's Emery and Ljungberg and now Arteta. They're not starting him. So something's going on behind the scenes. I wonder what it is.
I think Ljungberg said, I think it was after the Norwich game, why he didn't bring him on was because there's something in training. He weren't seeing the right attitude in training. And once he sees the right attitude, then he's more inclined to want to start him. And maybe that's the same thing with Arteta, because we saw in the interviews when Arteta was unveiled as our head coach. he wants players to play for the club with the right attitude. That's go buy into what he wants. Maybe that is it.
Yeah, and I think as well, the main issue with Pepe so far is whether or not he's adapted to the English game as quickly as we'd all like. Like I think, just the intensity of it and having to, sort of track back when potentially League One he wouldn't necessarily have to. I think that's something that he's having to cope with a little bit more than he would have expected. So I think if you've seen him when he's on the ball, he does look sharp. He does look quality. He commits players. He makes things happen. I think he was one of our most creative players in those few games that he was starting. But then I think when he does lose the ball, then his desire to then potentially win it back. I'm not sure that's quite there. Like when I've seen him at the Emirates a few times, he's lost the ball and then just starts jogging back and that kind of thing. And I'm thinking with sort of the attitude that Ljungberg and Arteta were trying to get into the boys about this intensity and desire to not get countered on and that kind of thing. Whether or not he's quite at that fitness level that can sustain that. So it'd be interesting to see how he comes into lineups, towards the second half of the season, because I think once he's, sort of gets used to, the training level, the intensity levels, then we might see a bit more of him in starting lineups.
I just love watching him play. He's just so exciting and unpredictable, and not the same style, but he reminds me a lot of sort of when Carney was playing in his best, when you just didn't know what Carney was going to do because Carney didn't know what he was going to do himself, until he was doing it. He was just all gangly limbs and everything.
Elastic legs, yeah.
I know, and he reminds me a bit of that in lots of ways. So I just really can't wait to see him, because I know that we've got a player there. I personally think that anyway. I think we've got a real player there, and he's just. I mean, you can tell what the opposition think about him though by the way those tackles. I mean, seriously, against West Ham and against Bournemouth the other day, you can see what absolute disgusting. And in between them, they've had one yellow card, so you can see what the opposition think of him. Trying to nullify him by breaking his legs. But the one good thing, he seems very resilient from that sort of thing. He doesn't like sulk and, hobble off and think, I can't be arsed with this. He gets up and cracks on, doesn't he? So that's fair enough. Fair play to him. On that point, we're going to move on to the next plot of subjects. And we're going to talk about the season review so far, as we mentioned before we went live. We're going to talk about the best player of the season so far, the most improved, the best game, and the best goal of the season so far. But also, we're going to talk about a couple of things about the past decade, the Arsenal player of the decade, and the best game of the decade. But I'm going to quickly go on to who I think is my personal choice for player of the decade, because it links on to what we've just been discussing with Pepe. And I absolutely love watching Pepe play because I just like exciting players who, like I said, unpredictable is the word again. You don't know what they're quite going to do. And for that reason, my player of the decade has been Alexis Sanchez, because I love the guy. And he really, really excited me in an Arsenal shirt like no other player has for quite a long time. And at the time, we were playing that beautiful tiki-taka football still as well, but it frustrated the hell out of me sometimes when we used to try and pass the other team to death and walk the ball into the net, and I used to really want someone sometimes just to fucking smash it from 25, 30 yards into the top corner, and that's what he brought to the team as well. So, yeah, he is probably a controversial one, but I love the guy, watching him play, so he's my player of the decade, and it's I'm hoping for similar things from Pepe in the future. So let's go back round clockwise this time. So Potsy, who's yours?
So mine was between two. And I was struggling with this one because the kind of obvious one is the one that was been there for the 10 years from start to finish. Is the reason that we've won what we have only won in the last 10 years has been FA Cups, and that's Aaron Ramsey. But I actually haven't gone for him. I've gone for Santi Cazorla. I think with Santi, what he did was, I just absolutely love the guy. I still, to this day, love him. I'd still have him at the club now. He's having a good season, by the way, at Villarreal. And for me, so two-footed, one of the best technically I've seen at the Emirates. Ask any player who was the best to train with. They all say Santi Cazorla. They don't say Sanchez, Ozil, Wilshere, any of the players we had at the time. They all stick to Santi Cazorla. And I just feel that he made that midfield tick, and we have not replaced that since he's gone. I feel that the years that he was there, he was our most consistent player and probably our best player. So for me, I've gone for Santi Cazorla. Just though, I do have to mention Ramsey, but I've just gone for Santi Cazorla.
Fair play. I can't really argue too much with that. We love Santi myself as well. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, for me, I think those are two great shouts at the moment. I probably would have agreed with you, Andrew, and said Sanchez just for the pure X factor and like just amazing player that he was to watch live and on the TV and stuff like that. He literally, you know, sort of carried Arsenal on his back, I think, for the 3-4 years that he was here. And then I think, you know, I will have to go with Aaron Ramsey just because he's given me like one of the best days I've ever had as an Arsenal fan. Going to Wembley to watch that FA Cup final versus Chelsea, that header just after, you know, they'd equalised with Diego Costa, and that was, you know, just one of the best moments for me this decade. So yeah, for me, I'm going to Aaron Ramsey.
Don't forget that Sanchez scored in 2 FA Cup finals as well.
Yeah,
they weren't the winning goals, but he did do it.
Yeah, he did.
Without him.
He did.
And Santi Cazorla. That
Yeah,
banging
yeah.
free kick.
Oh, what a goal that was, though. That was
Banging
incredible.
free kick.
Oh,
Banging free
what a
kick.
goal. Yeah, amazing free kick. And it's just like as if he was, I don't know, it's so easy when he scored it as well. He didn't really go run around mad, did he? Anyway, Ken, what about you?
I'm going to go with Potsy and I say Santiago Cazorla. Santiago Cazorla
Lovely.
has to be one of the best players I've ever seen in an Arsenal shirt. And I've seen a lot of great players. I've seen Vieira, I've seen Petit, I've seen Pires, I've seen Henry, I've seen Bergkamp. But this player was the brain of our team. And to this day, Mesut Ozil must be in tears and thinking, when I miss my Santi, because he was the glue that got the best out of Mesut Ozil. A lot of players have been tried, like Granit's been tried to get the best out of Mesut Ozil. We tried him with pace, but this guy was one of the reasons why, you know, I think Mesut Ozil played his best football. If you look in the 15-16 season, a lot of it was because of Santi. He was like the quarterback. He was able to give the ball to Ozil. Stop, because you know one of the things I hate about Mesut Ozil, I hate it when Mesut Ozil, you know, goes deep. He doesn't hurt the opposition from there. He stays in the last third. But when he has Santi with him and Sanchez on with him, he could just stay in the last third, just you know, anywhere in the front three or just behind the front two and do his magic. And I think Santi Cazorla was definitely magic. Another thing as well, I'll never forget two things. Had Alex Bruce scored that goal at Hull in the final, lost behind a goal, we're out of it. And if Santi Cazorla didn't score that free kick, there would be no, you know, there would be probably another 11 years without winning a trophy at like 9. And that's why, for me, he's a player of the decade. And I feel like crying because, the fact that, you know, he got injured.
Oh, let it all out, Ken. Let it all out. You're at a safe place.
And most unfortunately, the good thing about it as well, I'm probably the only one who pronounces his name properly as well.
Sorry, Ken. I'm an Essex boy, mate. Sorry, man.
I know, I'm an Essex boy, but on a serious level, he would get into any of the great Arsenal teams. Easily get into. He would have got into the side, Arsene Wenger's great sides of them, 97, 98, 01, 02, and he would have got an invincible side. He's that good. All the players that that you speak to, ex-players, all they talk about is Santi Cazorla. That's all they talk about, and it's just a shame that injuries robbed us of probably one of the technical players I've ever seen in football.
No coincidence, our away forms just dived off a cliff the moment he got injured as well.
See, that's the thing. You can't control the tempo of games without someone like him in the side because they had the brain of our team.
Yeah, I know. It's mad that he, at one stage, you might not walk properly again, let alone play football. Yeah. And the way he's come back is incredible. And apparently, because they had to do skin grafts, he's got a tattoo that used to be on his arm, is now on his leg. because of the skin they had to
Yeah.
use. I mean, that is just
And
madness, isn't it?
one more thing, guys. He's actually back in the Spanish squad.
I know,
Yeah.
incredible. I know he's probably going to play at the top level for another couple of seasons, but yeah, I wish we still got him as well. And it's nowhere. I'm not saying he's in the same class at all. I'm just got high hopes personally that Ceballos can do a similar job that he used to do in front of the back four, taking the ball from them and distributing it rather than playing further up the pitch. Because that's what I think Ceballos would be perfect to do if he can adapt to the Premier League well. But what about you, Ryan?
I have to agree. It's 3 votes for Santi because, as the guys have said, see him live on TV. In the last decade, there's no one like him at all. Comes close to what Santi brought to the team. It's just phenomenal. And as Kenny Ken touched on, without Santi's goal, we were 2-0 down. We don't win that cup final because at that time we couldn't see us getting back into it.
No.
Because Hull had a 2-goal lead, they could have set up camp and just and the passion he had for the club, he loved the club so much. The little Tommy was at the club.
You're going to start me crying in a minute, like Kenny Ken as well.
He just gave everything for the club, and no matter, he wasn't afraid to push forward for someone of his ilk. He wasn't afraid to push forward and get involved in the penalty box and get them goals, and get not just get the assist. He would get the goals. I remember the goal against Tottenham in the FA Cup third round, the year that we won it. It was Gnabry put the ball through to him, and he just walloped it.
It was a great game, that.
Yeah, and the same season against Liverpool at the Emirates, 0-0. Again, just walloped. He just put his foot through. He weren't afraid to put his laces through the ball to make sure the ball went in the net. And again, he was an absolute talent. It's very, very see of, and we were lucky enough to have him for however long we did.
Absolutely, I can't argue with any of those choices really. All good players and all great players. I mean, Ramsey, for those 6 months, he had a 6-month spell, didn't he, where he literally just couldn't stop hitting the net, and from 30 yards, I mean, that was half volley he scored. I can't remember who it was against now, but about 35 yards out. Norwich.
Oh, Liverpool. 35 yards out, Liverpool on the half
Yeah,
volley.
he just did it on the half volley, and I mean, incredible. And he was literally unstoppable at that particular point. Another career that was blighted by injuries, and we could have had a lot more out of him. But yeah, I can't argue either with Santi. Absolutely incredibly technically gifted player. I mean, he could just find space where there wasn't any, and you could dribble around players in a telephone box. He was just incredible, wasn't he? And yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I can understand the club's decision when he got fit, and they gave him an extra year whilst he was rehabilitating to let him go. But surely there was someone at the club that could have predicted that he's going to come back as quickly as he has and to the same sort of level that he has. I mean, that's a real shame, isn't it? But there you go. Hopefully we'll get him back in some kind of capacity in the future. And the other thing was mentioning the decade and the year that we've been through is Jose Antonio Reyes was big friends with Cazorla, wasn't he? And he was one of the reasons why he came over. He wanted to come over in the first place with their love for the club. And tragic what happened to Reyes. He was another one I actually loved watching play. I know it wasn't specifically within this decade, but we lost him quite recently, and that's a real tragic shame that was as well. But let's go on to the game of the decade, and I don't know who wants to start with this one.
Can I start, please?
Yes, of course, mate. Of course.
So, sorry, guys, but I've been itching for that because ever since you said the game of the decade, I've been like a little kid, getting all excited. And I want to say the game.
You're going through all the emotions, aren't you, Ken?
It's just, the game of the decade has to be 26th of February 2012, the same day as the League Cup final between Liverpool and Cardiff. It was a North London derby when we were about 10 points behind Tottenham Hotspur. They were 2-0 up. Goal, a deflected shot by Sahar, a goal penalty by Adebayor, and one of the greatest comebacks ever, and a thrashing. And because of that game, not only did we manage to take the top 4 from Spurs, but it's because it basically killed Harry Redknapp as a top-class manager. Because that season, Harry Redknapp was flirting with the England job. Spurs fought England. This guy was meant to be getting us to the Champions League. That season, not only did they not finish above Arsenal, Chelsea ran and won the Champions League final, finishing 6th place as one of the nominees for the Champions League in
Unbelievable.
2012.
So
but that game, not because it was a derby, it was because of the context of the whole season and how it just turned their season. And there were some really, really good goals. Great goal by Robin van Persie, the equaliser. Great pace by Phil Walcott getting a couple of goals. Tomić Rosicky, another player who,
loved him.
and they've got one of the goals. He actually made a habit of scoring against Tottenham Hotspur. But for me, that has to be the game I remember a lot.
Yeah, it was a great game. Really, really good game. Who wants to go next?
Brought up into song there, mate. What's going on? Is there a song?
That was my phone. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I don't mind going next. I'm just in terms of game of the decade. I think there's 2 that stick in my mind, just in terms of how I celebrated the goals that went in. I think that game versus Leeds in the FA Cup 3rd round. I remember that Thierry Henry coming back, scoring the winner with that Henry-esque finish from the left side of the box into the bottom right corner. I remember hugging my housemate, like screaming down the whole house, just like couldn't believe it, tears in my eyes that,
It was a celebration, wasn't it, as well?
The biggest legend at our club has come back and actually scored the winner on his sort of second debut off the bench. That was amazing. And then the second one for me would be the 2-1 against Barcelona in the Champions League with Arshavin as well at the end there, where Martin Tyler commentary up there, and it's Nasri, and it's passed it to Arshavin with the celebration, putting the shirt over his head. That was magical. Yeah, those 2 for me for sure.
It was fantastic. Who wants to go next? Dan, Potsy, I should say.
That's all right, no worries. Oh man, do you know what? I love podcasts with different people because they come on and agree with you. Man, honestly, jeez, I was like thinking I'll have a bit of a debate tonight. I'll disagree with a few people. No, Dan and Kenny Ken. Jeez, I agree with both of them. Okay, my favorite game, I'm going to go with Kenny Ken. The first 5-2 was by far the best. Let's not forget as well that team was pretty bang average that we had at the time, and it was a team that was not going, in my opinion, anywhere. So to get where we were with that team was pretty sensational. Likewise, the reason I loved the Barcelona one was because I was actually going out to the second leg. I was there that night, but I went to the second leg as well, which we won't talk about because Van Persie got sent off for kicking the ball away, which was a joke. Anyway, was robbery. So I'm gonna go for that as well. Let's not forget as well that we had Johan Giroud at the back against Messi and David Villa. So to win 2-1 there, Jesus Christ. If I had to be different and pick one other one though, because it would be Kenny Ken's choice 5-2. If I had to pick one that I absolutely loved though, it's one we mentioned earlier, and that's the Chelsea FA Cup final. Because everybody writ us off against Man City in the semis. Everybody writ us off in the final against Chelsea, and we turned it around and we proved everyone wrong. And Aaron Ramsey was sensational. We had I tell you who was man of the match actually, BFG. He was amazing that day. Unbelievable that day. So if I had to pick one out there that isn't copying these guys, then I would go for the Arsenal-Chelsea FA Cup final. But 5-2 North London derby, 100%. It has to be, man. Has to be.
It's a fantastic game. Again, I can't argue with any of those. What about you, Ryan?
Well, I was going to say Chelsea final just for the exact same reasons Dan just given. Literally, were written off. No one gave it a chance because Chelsea had walked the league and this, that, and the other. There's so many. 5-2. You said I was going to say Barcelona second. Just because, again, Barcelona. You think about the Barcelona: Messi, David Villa, Iniesta, Xavi, Carlos Puyol. the beginning of what was the dynasty of Barcelona, the best team in the world at the time, and we went toe to toe with them with a 19-year-old Jack Wilshere in midfield and played them at their own game and scored a Barcelona-esque goal to win the game. Obviously, they're coming back, kicked us up the backside in the second leg, but that's another matter. Bit of a corruption, but hey, who loves a bit of corruption? For me, I've had to be different. That to be last season's North London derby, the 4-2. The place was absolutely rocking. The goals were immense. It's not one point in that game did I think we would lose that game. Even when we went 1-0 and 2-1 down, we won all and then 2-1 down. I always thought we would win, just because of how the play had gone out from the first second to the end. Pressure, playing the game plan every 20-minute spell, playing it to a T, and every goal was celebrated like we've won the World Cup by the players. It was to be different. I'll just say that one. What about yourself, Andrew?
I think it's not the best game of the decade, but I think the best moment in the game for me of the decade was the Welbeck goal versus Leicester on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Limbs.
At that particular time, I couldn't have been more elated at all. I genuinely thought we'd won the league after that goal had gone in. And
should have.
Of course we should, of course. I think that moment of that game was... what can you say about how you feel at a football game? That was probably one of the best moments. Similar to when Sol Campbell scored in the Champions League final. That particular moment, that was just like world-changing, mind-blowing, unadulterated ecstasy. Like, you can't. That's what you all follow football for, isn't it? Those moments, but it's not the best game of the decade. But I think for me, that was one of the best moments of a match in the decade. It was just incredible, and I genuinely couldn't see us losing the title then. So
I think that's a great shout, Andrew. Like, I don't think there's been a moment in the past 10 years that I've actually been happier as an Arsenal fan. Like,
no, I don't think so either. It's been a decade of few highs, isn't it, really? But that was certainly a massive high. Obviously, I totally agree with all you guys. The FA Cup finals as well, and amazing. But I don't think I've ever felt happier than that for quite a long time watching football. So let's go on to this season then, because we've had 3 different managers so far this season. It's been going back. I mean, as a calendar year, I think it's been one of the worst for a long time. And I've followed Arsenal since 1980, and I've seen an awful lot of crap football, crap finishes. But I don't think I've ever felt as bad, watching an Arsenal team and so down and depressed as I have this year, really. But
Andrew, how old were you in 1983?
How old? 10.
I was 11 in 1983. Please tell me you haven't forgotten the Terry Neal days.
Oh, of course I haven't.
When we all went to the Channel, and I was 11 that time, but friends of mine went to Channel and tried to get Terry Neal sacked. We actually had a protest. Do you remember the times when we lost against Walsall at home in the Milk Cup?
York City.
Lost at home to Coventry, Sunderland, West Brom, West Ham turning us over. The only highlights was the fact that we beat Spurs in the Cup.
I know,
Signing it to Woodcock. Trust me, guys, you guys a lot. I'm an old man with a grey beard, but the 2 Danes and Ryan, trust me, you think it's bad now. I promise you, mate.
Oh, it's horrendous. I'm a bit worried about you, Ken. It looks like you're sinking into your sofa.
I'm back up. I look like Humpty Dumpty, don't I?
just a floating head. But no, I would never forget those days at all, because I used to have them. I mean, all my mates back in the day when I was in London, all my mates were Liverpool fans because they were the best team in the land. I was getting the piss taken out of me all the time being an Arsenal fan, and I'll never. In fact, when I was watching the the Wenger era when it all started, and I just couldn't believe what kind of football I was watching from an Arsenal team. And I said to myself then, I can remember this. I said, I'm not going to ever take this for granted because I know it ain't going to last. I physically, I just couldn't believe what kind of incredible football I was watching. So I kind of secretly hoped it would last forever, but obviously it certainly hasn't. But I mean, this season, I have to really sort of link it. For me, it really started Everton away last season when we lost 1-0, and I just think, what the hell's going on? And this is just not Arsenal what we've been used to at all. And obviously it continued for long into this season. But let's have a look anyway. The best player. I mean, I'm going to go quickly because I think it's quite an easy one for me. The best player this season so far at the halfway stage has still got to be Aubameyang, because he still does the business. And he's still been scoring his goals, and I dread to think where we'd be without his goals, to be perfectly honest, because we haven't been scoring them from any other areas of the pitch. So he's my vote. Let's go back round clockwise. So, Potsy, what's your vote for player of the season so far?
See, I found this pretty easy, if I'm honest. Leno. I think if it wasn't for Leno, we'd be in a lot more trouble than we are now. Just recently, even that world-class save against De Bruyne onto the post last weekend, the weekend before.
Incredible.
He tipped onto the post for Norwich, unbelievable, couple of weeks ago, you know. So for me, he's made some great. He doesn't really get enough credit for me. I think he's a top draw goalkeeper with a shocking defense in front of him, and I think that he's got, you know, a lot of potential to get even better as well at the age of 27 or whatever he is now. So it was Leno for me. I know Aubameyang's put him in, but he still has frustrated me with some of his attitude of late. It does get to the stage where it looks like he's not trying and people are saying he's lazy and stuff like that. But I don't think you can say that Leno's put much of a foot wrong. And one thing I will say about Leno is when the ball does get passed back to him, I feel confident. And I can't say that about many other goalkeepers in this decade at Arsenal. So, Leno for me.
I can't argue with that. That's a great shout. And if I'm honest, I always forget about goalkeepers, that they exist, and I always only think about outfield players. So yeah, great shout. He's a very underrated goalkeeper, I must admit. He is, and we're lucky to have him at the moment. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to second my namesake over there, like with Bernd Leno as well. I think, you know, he is criminally underrated almost, you know, like if you think about the fact that we only got him for 25 million, I think it was as well. And he's for me like one of the best keepers in the division. I think he's probably been, you know, if not the best, probably like top 2 keepers in the league for me this season, personally. And I think, like, you know, you look at what Kepa cost Chelsea 73 million. I'm like, you know, I'm so grateful that we managed to get him for 25. So no, he's been incredible, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Kenny Ken.
I'm going to go with the 2 Danes. I actually owe this man an apology because last season I was one of his biggest critics. So I blamed him for some defeats. I blamed him for the defeat against Southampton last year, which probably was the turning point in the Unai Emery's career for the fact, Austin's 3rd goal. I was very critical of him in the Man United 2-2. And there were certain things he was doing what I didn't like, but he's completely turned it around for me. I mean, you think about it. Wolves at home, he had to face 25 shots. And, you know, and he had to put where a lot of them, quite a few of them were one-on-ones. Watford, 30 shots. And it's a situation where, you know, he had a few Larry moments. Remember the North London derby where that shot from Lamella which he fumbled in and Ericsson put in. But the thing is that I liked his attitude after that. No finishing for himself. Yeah. No Jim Leighton antics. Gonna cry to his wife and everything. Get his head down. Everything. He came and fighting, and that's one thing I'm impressed by. He's actually captain material for me, where he does show that sort of leadership. And you know that, with goalkeepers, there is a lot of loyalty anyway. And at the end of the day, people say, why is a goalkeeper a captain? Well, they can see the whole picture. You know what I mean? And that's why, for me, captain material rather than the captain we have at the moment, for me, I agree with Dan, has to be Bernd Leno.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you guys are changing my mind, to be perfectly honest. I don't mind admitting that either. About you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's going to be a full house on this. It has to be Leno, because the guy, as people say, doesn't get the credit he deserves because of the defence that's in front of him. The media or your pundits, they won't take no notice. If he was in front of an invincible back forwards in front of him, he'll be getting a lot more praise than what he is at the moment. This guy's faced this season alone near 70-odd shots and like 20 plus shots a game. And as we said, we were 3-0 down against Man City the other week and tipping the shot onto the post, still making world-class saves, not giving up. And learning from his mistakes. That's the main thing. He's learned from his mistakes, and the maturity of his game has got better this season. So yeah, I have to say it's a full house of Leno. Yeah,
I mean that save was absolutely sort of made your jaw drop, didn't it, against Man City? At first, my lad said, "What a save!" I said, "What?" It came off the post, didn't it? I literally weren't looking properly, and then when they showed the replay, I mean, what a save! That is just as like incredible as a goal, that isn't it? It was proper incredible moment that was. Who's do you think is the most improved player? I don't mind who goes first on this one. Put your hand up, no problem at all. But yeah, most improved player of the season.
Can we include
Saka
for the summer?
I think Saka has, because I think what it is that he's coming aside where firstly he was a left winger kind of player, and he managed to get himself in a situation where he gained the trust of his manager. You know, steps out a bit because we had players coming back from injury, but to get himself in a situation where he's managed to turn himself into a competent left back. I know he played as left back when he was in the junior teams under in the under 18s and everything. But the fact of the matter is that his attitude really impresses me. No head down, wants to work, wants to improve, and wants to play for his foot team. And you could say the same about Ainsley as well, Maitland-Niles as well. Since he's come back and been interested in the side after Bellerin's injury, again, under Freddie and now under Arteta, he's improved as well. So it's a bit of a tie for me. But again, because of what's happened this season, we've had a poor season. It's hard to pick improved players, but I would go with Bukayo Saka.
Yeah. Okay. Potsy, what do you think?
This is going to be controversial because I think he's been really poor the last couple of games. But I have to look at what happened last season, okay, and who's improved this season. And for me, Saka didn't really play enough last year for me to pick Saka. As much as I don't think Kenny Ken's wrong, I think he has improved this season. I'm going on from what has happened this start of the season to last season. So I am going to go for Matteo Guendouzi. He's been pretty poor the last few games, though.
He's a future midfield leader of our team. He's a future for Arsenal.
And this is what I mean. And a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, you can't say that. He's been dire the last few games." Do you know what? No, he's been dire the last few games, which is why he's been dropped, and deservedly so. However, this season, he's been one of the only ones who has shown any desire or passion to want to be on that pitch and take the game by the scruff of the neck. You look at that North London derby and tell me that he wasn't the best player by a long way. You look at the Aston Villa game, and one of the reasons we come back to 3-2 this season because of Matteo Guendouzi. We went to Old Trafford and nobody gave a damn. He was the only one trying. We went to Sheffield United and we were in the rain and nobody cared, and they bullied us and beasted us off the pitch. He was the only one trying. There's been some horrendous games this season that Arsenal have had as a football club, but I cannot say that Matteo Guendouzi has not been putting in the effort. And for me, he has been the most improved. And I look at him on the ball. He is a lot more comfortable on the ball. He's learning that he can't be his kind of immature self in terms of his mentality, because he does lose his head sometimes. He's learning. I don't mind a bit of the bite, though, in a player. I don't mind the fact that he's the first one there sticking up for his teammates. That doesn't bother me. A lot of people say to me that's bad and he's going to get himself sent off. Do you know what? I didn't mind him when Patrick Vieira or Martin Keown were doing it. If that means that he's going to go and do it, then I'd stick behind him and give him 100% confidence and belief that he can carry on doing it. So for me, Matteo Guendouzi is one of the only ones I can pick, because none of the others for me have got any better. They've either stayed the same or got worse. So for me, it's Matteo Guendouzi 100%.
You don't forget the rugby tackle on
Zaha as well.
Yes, on Zaha.
Yes, mate. Preach Preach it. That was beautiful. Preach it.
Fantastic. That was the best. That's the best comedy moment of the season, without doubt. Incredible. I think. Well, I'll give my thoughts at the end, but what about you, Dan?
Yeah, I can. I think probably Callum Chambers. I'm going to put in as most improved personally because, I think for me, and I think like a lot of other fans, I thought, we need to cash in on this guy as soon as possible. In the summer just gone, the summer window, and I thought, if we could get 15 to 20 mil for him, he's not good enough to play for Arsenal. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised by his performances, starting with the opening day. At Newcastle, I thought he was very solid, helped us keep a clean sheet that day against Everton as well when he's come into centre back. And when he's played at right back, I think he's been impressive. And I think that is emphasised in that United match when he got that early yellow card versus Daniel James playing right back. And I think in seasons gone past, I think we would have seen that second yellow come out and he would have been sent off. But I think he played a very mature game that day, backed off him. And I think he's matured a lot from his 2 loans that he's had outside the club. And I think he has been most improved player in our team this season.
Yeah, it's my choice as well. That's definitely my choice as well. Ryan, what about you?
I was going to say Chambers as well, based on the fact of back end of his before he went on loan, he looked like his career was up at Arsenal, got loaned out, but used the loan as a learning curve, and not only learned how to be in a back four, in the back four itself, but a new role for him was a CDM under Ranieri. And he's come back this season with a point to prove, and you can see it in the games that he does play, that he's given 100%, and he's versatile as well. I think it was at one game when, particularly with Nottingham Forest in the cup, he was playing right back, centre back, right centre back, left side of centre back, and left back all in one game. And he didn't complain, and his consistency itself has. And look at the season itself, the players have been that consistent, especially in the defensive side of it. Yeah, he made mistakes. They all have. That's why we're in the position we're in. But the fact that he's come back, he didn't just come back and let the loan destroy his career. He learned from it, and he's come back, and he has got better.
Yeah. I agree. And Tony Turner's put a comment on that saying that Chambers hasn't improved much, though. He's just finally got a run of games. There was a reason player of the season for Fulham, the lad needed games. I honestly think that he has learned from that loan and getting that full season under his belt. I definitely think he's come back a better player. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he has given it all in every game, I think. I don't think he's ever hidden from anything. And he's put in some solid performances in his right back as well as centre half. And I think he was really good at the weekend. Well, not the weekend, obviously throws you out this time of year, doesn't it? But Thursday, I mean that volleyed cross that he did, I can't remember who it was against now, when he got a hat trick of assists that game. I mean that was fantastic, wasn't it? And he's given us some good moments this year, and I think he deserves a lot of plaudits. And on the same front, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we made was getting rid of Christian Bielik. I was banging on about him all season, and especially in the summer. And I think we made a massive mistake selling him in the summer for 10 million quid, because I think he would have been a really good player as well. In the same sort of vein, he went off on his loans and did exceptionally well without complaining. Accepted his loan, took it as part of his learning process with the club, and we just went up and sold him. And everyone was raving about the price we got for him in the summer, saying, "Oh, it's amazing, we got 10 million quid for him." Well, I'm sorry, but we're being quoted for Upamecano upwards of 70 million quid for doing the same job that Christian Bielik does. And we got 10 million for him, and this doesn't make sense for me, because it's Upamecano and he plays in a foreign league. Everyone instantly assumes that he's better, but I thought I really rated the kid, and I wish we'd kept hold of him. I hope we've got a buyback clause in him. I don't know whether we have or not, but anyway, this season's best game. What do you think so far? It's really, this is a tough one. This is a really tough
really
one.
tough, man.
How long
This
you
is
got?
really tough. But I think I think I'd have to go with the Aston Villa game at home, just for the pure fact that we turned it around to 3-2 with 10 men. I was excited by that game a bit more than the North London derby. I left the North London derby a little bit gutted, so because we didn't win. So because we took 3 points, I'm going to have to go with that to get the Aubameyang free kick at the last minute. We went down to 10 men with Maitland-Niles getting sent off, and then obviously went the goal down, and then went 2-1 down, and then to get it back to 2-2 with Chambers, who we've just been talking about, equalising, and then the free kick to win it 3-2 with last minute. I'm going to have to go with that, but it hasn't been great, has it, to pick one?
No.
But I'm going to have to go with that one, I think.
Yeah, I think I totally understand that. I think mine is the 5-5 against Liverpool, just for pure excitement.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I just loved that game. I mean, of course, it was mistake after mistake, but I came back off watching that game and went on Twitter. I said, I absolutely fucking love that game. I wish we could play like that every week. And people going, oh, well, what, you remember all the defensive mistakes? I said, well, it's exciting, mate. I've been fucking lacking exciting football for so long. I didn't care less. That's for me. We've had some good performances in the cups.
Yeah, watching
Sorry,
that
go on,
game
mate.
was like watching Arsenal-Liverpool when Arsenal scored 4 that year, that season, when he first
Mm.
came in.
Yeah.
End-to-end defensive errors, but it was just goals.
Oh, it was just an exciting game of football. That's what I like. Anyway, what about you, Kev?
I have to go for the game against Vitória of Portugal in the Europa League, the home game when we were 2-1 down, and then those 2 free kicks from Nicola Pepe was probably worth the admission itself. Yeah. It was one of those games where you just thought, you just knew something was happening. The way he put the ball down, and you thought, right. It just reminded me. Do you remember the time when we put England play Scotland in sort of 20 on the World Cup qualifiers where England were 1-0 up, and then that guy from Celtic, what's his name again? Got those 2 free kicks from identical.
Oh, Griffiths.
Oh yeah,
Griffiths.
Yeah.
Yeah, Griffiths got actually, and the poor old Joe Hart was in goal. It just reminded me of that, where you just knew the moment was set, where he was just going to, it was a pick his moment, and he just went bang. And then the second one, we went, yeah, come on, bang, and you went, thank you, goodbye, lead the stage, no more. You know that sort of, Di Canio moment when he scored that great goal against Wimbledon, where he just says no more, and that's how I felt with Pepe's free kicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, although
that's a similar sort of thing to the Welbeck Leicester game, isn't it? Really, that's all about the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was a shit match. That game was rubbish, but it was the moment that creates it for you at the end of the game. I know where you're coming from. What about you, Dan?
It's been crap this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I might have to go with one of the cup games. I think the 5-0 against Nottingham Forest, just because I think it was just a really, really good day. Like, I think all the goal scorers, everyone was buzzing about. Martinelli scored his first goals for the club. I think Rob Holding, first game back from injury, scored a nice header. Reece Nelson scored his first goal as well. Bellerin came on and got an assist that game as well, first game back. So yeah, I think that game had real feel good factor about everything there. That you saw the emergence of what could potentially be a future star for the club in Martinelli, plus all of the things around Holding and Bellerin coming back from injury. It was you left the Emirates feeling really, really happy that day. So I think that is that's my game of the season so far.
Was a good one. Just going to read out a couple of comments. Stan the Man saying Upamecano is streets ahead of Bielik. He won't re-sign his contract, so we get him at a cut price. I'd love to know though, Stan, and I'm not being funny. I love you, guy. But how many matches have you actually seen from start to finish with Upamecano playing, and how many matches from start to finish have you seen Bielik playing? Because I think a lot of this is down to, like I said, a bit of biased against homegrown players like that. I think because he plays for in a different league and his name's Upamecano, I think everyone just thinks, oh, man, he must be great. I don't know. What's it based on, Stan? What do you base that on? and I've got to have a big shout out to Terry Mancini's hair transplant because he always makes me laugh with his comments in the posts. He's one of my favourite guy. It's nothing against the man, but the best game was Unai's last because it reminds me of when the missus left me. It was wonderful relief.
Gosh.
Really, really funny.
Oh, dear.
Right, Tony Turner. When's Canate supposed to be back from his muscle tear? I don't think they will sell Upamecano until the summer. Well, if there's loads of rumours going around that we're going to be after oh God, what's his name? Dude from Napoli. What's his name? Gone completely out of my head. Help me out. Sorry,
Koulibaly.
Koulibaly. Thank you. Bloody hell, got a brain fart moment. Yeah, well. Apparently, he's available for a similar sort of price that we'd have to pay for Upamecano. And I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it? That'd be good. Sometime if we can get him and Thomas Partey, that'd be game. I'd be a very happy man. Best goal.
This is Arsenal, man. We'll end up with Ryan Shawcross. Trust me. This is Arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't I don't doubt it for 1 second. Best goal of the season so far. Who wants to go first on that one? Don't all can't stop running at once.
That's
That's
a hard one.
I'll go first because my favourite one was definitely been the goal that Lacazette scored just before half time against Spurs when he just had that moment where he thought, fuck this, and I'm going to sort this out myself, and no one else is doing fuck all. So he just barged his way through it and just blasted it with his left into the top corner, and that was a great goal. I think it was an underrated goal, and I think it was a brilliant goal. I loved it.
See that was my one. The other one I did think of going for though, but it wasn't in the league. Was the Joe Willock one at Anfield?
Yes, yeah, great goal.
Because that was a hell of a strike. But I have to go over Lacazette because that got us back into that game. So yeah, I'm with you, Andrew, 100%.
Again, it was down to the emotion as well, as much as the actual goal itself, wasn't it? It was, and when he just scored it and he just stood there, it was a great moment, really good moment. Anyone else?
Yeah,
I'll go for the second goal. The one because it's Potsy was talking about how when Dozy dragged us back in the game in the North London derby. If you look at the equaliser, it was when Dozy's little cross, Aubameyang beats the offside track, and he manages to, like I said, get a foot out, managed to divert it past Lloris. VAR did its best, but it was a kind of goal. And it's kind of thing where it's just kind of like the whole state, the roof comes off, because it was just one of those things where the player who's more likely to get us a goal to get us back to get us the equaliser, and against a player who actually, single-handedly, with pure bloody mindedness of a 19-year-old, he was 19 at the time, to just drag us back in the game and said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to do something about this. And I think that was in that context of the game. It was one of those things where you thought, that was a moment, and it was actually a great build-up for the goal as well.
So it was a great goal, and a quick shout out to every single one of Martinelli's goals as well, because I'm biased because I love the kid, but especially the first one he scored for the first team, which I think was in the Forest game, I think, wasn't it? The header. That was incredibly underrated. That was a great header. Fantastic player. But Ryan, have you got one of your darts shout out? Goal?
Pretty recent. Pepe against West Ham.
Yeah, Harry Tanneman said that in the comments. Yeah,
because based on the fact I said earlier, in that game he ran the game from in an Arsenal perspective from start to the end, from the start to the minute he came off. He was running up and down that pitch like you wouldn't believe. He left everything on the pitch, and all it was missing up to that point was a goal from him, and what a goal!
It was a good goal.
And he saw it. He saw what it meant to him in his celebration. To his first goal from open play that weren't a dead ball situation.
Yeah, it was a good goal. I mean, I play devil's advocate a bit, but I really enjoyed that goal. It was a great finish, but was it any better than the free kicks that Kenny Ken mentioned earlier? I mean, it was open play, yes,
I
but
was just basing it on it was open. It wasn't a dead ball situation. It was his first open play goal. If it was dead ball, if it was all his goals, it would have to be his second free kick because of the pressure it was under.
Yeah.
mm,
I think that was going to be my shout. Pepe's second free kick against Vitor Guimarães, I think they're called Vitoria. Just because I think it was postage stamp pressures on. You just scored a free kick, get us 3 points in the group stage, and he did it. It was perfect free kick. So I think that's goal of the season so far for me.
yeah, it was a great goal. And Stan replied saying that he's seen quite a few RB big games. Arthur Meccano's playing regular football, blah blah blah. Fair play, Stan. If you've actually seen a lot of Leipzig games, absolutely great. I just wanted to know what it's based on. That was all. And Thomas Meunier would be Tony Turner would be his main target this window with 6 months left at PSG. Bellerin needs competition. I would prefer to go for that Max Aarons from Norwich personally. I think he'd be happy.
Great shout.
I really like him, and I like Godfrey as well from Norwich. And I think he'd be more happy to be the one that battles for the place as well, rather than Meunier coming from PSG, probably demanding first team football. I'd like both of them to be competitive. Yeah, I think he's great talent. Yeah, exactly. And Todd Cantwell as well. I like him as well. He's like a young version of Grealish, isn't he? He's quite similar in the way he plays.
Jack. What about Jack? Jack, the real Grealish.
Well, I love Grealish as well. Yeah, but I think we'd get him a lot cheaper. It'd be a bit more realistic. Because I mean, the thing is, Grealish, they would think the same that Crystal Palace think about Zaha, about what he's worth to them, and the fact that he could keep them in the league. He's the best player, isn't he? And they say, well, it's not. He may not be worth 80 million quid, but to us, he is worth 80 million quid. To Zaha.
Best case scenario, both Villa and Norwich get relegated, and we get them both cheap.
Yeah, exactly. I'll definitely take the two defenders as well from Norwich. I really rate Godfrey as well.
They've got a left back as well. They've got a left back, Northern Ireland international, Norwich as well. That although we got Kieran Tierney, who's been here for a long time, I do like the look at that. Their left back, the Northern Ireland international.
Can't think of his name.
Jamal, is it Lewis or something?
Jamal Lewis, yeah.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. Yes, he looks good as well. Yeah, he does. I mean, they've got a talented squad, and when I put out those names on Twitter a few times, I've got a lot of people come back and say we need to set our sights higher than that and blah, blah, blah. But, ask Leicester whether they're quite happy with their purchase from Norwich, with James Maddison. We've got to stop this snobbery, really. If they're good players, they're good players. And look where Liverpool got Robertson from Hull for 8 million quid when they got relegated, and they weren't snobby when they went and got the right guy, were they?
Southampton as well. They got players from Southampton as well.
I
think we don't have to look far.
No.
We don't have to look far. People think, man, you just took the words out of my mouth, mate. Lewis Dunk, 100%. You look at players that are in the Premier League already, like Decore from Watford. You don't have to look far. They would all walk into our side at the moment. But what I will say is, linking us with people like Grealish and Zaha, all these people, I'm not interested in any of them. I need to sort this defensive midfield out, because at the moment, Pepe, Martinelli, Aubameyang, Lacazette, they're not the problem. The problem is the lack of defensive midfield and the lack of centre-backs. So they're the positions I want to see strengthened personally.
100%, yeah. We definitely need some fullbacks as well. We ain't got none. That'd be quite helpful. But yeah, I'd definitely like to see any of those guys come in. And I like Duffy and Dunk, to be perfectly honest, but they're both good. And I think Duffy, I said this to someone on Twitter yesterday, I think he scores a lot of goals as well. He's another one. He could get you sort of 6, 7, 8 goals a season quite easily, and that'd be quite helpful.
He can't get the team, can he? At the moment, he's been kept up. Was it by Webster?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, which is really odd because Duffy and Dunk, great partnership. I mean, they're like Ant and Dec, aren't they? You just go hand in hand.
What's the name from Burnley as well? Tarkowski and me. That's a decent partnership as well at Burnley. They know what they're doing. They're well drilled. But listen, we've got David Luiz, Mustafi, and Socrates. So really, there's a lot of defenders that get ahead of us in our walk into our team. I'll tell you that now. Jeez.
Well, this is going back to right at the start of the show about Arteta's first game. We've got to take into account the fact we've got the same players. And I think he did. He did a really good job. And because we look very solid, we outshot the opponent away from home. Unbelievable to think that we've done that after everything we've been through away. And let's go on to the next couple of games, because on the next show, which is the 30th, just a day after the Chelsea game, we've got a guy coming on. Who's a Man United fan, to discuss the Man United game as well coming up, because we have been both equally bad shower of shit, haven't we, as teams lately? So I thought it'd be quite interesting to get his point of view on us. He's going to, after the Chelsea game, and what he thinks we've got coming up on the next day as well, the next game. So, I mean, Chelsea have been doing really poor, and Frank Lampard's obviously immune to any kind of criticism because he's a legend at Chelsea, and all the players are so young. So yeah, he's a media darling, so no one's going to start slagging him off. But it's going to get to that stage soon because they're going off a cliff, aren't they? Now, it'd be just that Arsenal's luck that they turn up on the day and they'll probably thrash us 4 or 5-0. But it's sort of thing that usually happens to us, isn't they? But I think we've got to be favourites the way things stand at the moment. Personally, I mean, what are your thoughts on it, Ryan? Let's go to you first. What do you think we've got coming up with Chelsea?
Well, as I said, beginning of the show, I'm actually going to that game very excited, just because based on their form and our performance yesterday, seeing how we performed yesterday, apart from obviously the goal and how we conceded that. That concerned me a bit. The overall game plan and what Arteta's managed to do with the squad of players he's inherited at the moment, and how he's had to put a winger at left back who's 18 from our youth academy, because our 2 left backs are out injured for God knows how long. But we just the plays yesterday for us looked, as you said, more solid, more together. And if we can carry that over into Sunday, I can't see no reason why we can't win the game. Just based on going into it, the way Chelsea are playing at the moment, because they're losing at home to the likes of Bournemouth, Southampton, and West Ham. I mean, we ain't been perfect this season, but still, at the most critical point in the season, they're starting to fall off, and this is where we can catch them, because there's nothing expected of us. The media still got us off. Don't get us wrong. And whenever the media write us off, that's when we turn up.
Well, there's one thing that we can draw on from the last couple of years. We have turned it on against the top teams, haven't we? Shame we haven't done it against the bottom team, but we've played well. We have raised our game when it's needed.
And against Chelsea as well, we have most of the time, 9 times out of 10, have had their number the last few years. Apart from the odd occasion in the odd game, we've pretty much trounced them. 3-1 in their title-winning season, 2-0 in the cup. Better than them last season. Actually playing off the park, but the actual final itself, they've done us. They got their own back on us in the final. That's what I'm saying. 9 times out of 10, we've had their number in the last few years. The only time they've had dominance over us was when Mourinho was there. For some bizarre reason, when Mourinho's there, we can't beat the bastards.
Well, Dan, what are your thoughts about Man United as well? Because I know that on your podcast, you've got a group of fans from all different clubs, haven't you? I know one of your guys is a massive Man United fan. They are, to me, probably one of the most, I don't know, weirdest teams.
Aren't they?
You literally can't tell what's going to turn up, aren't they? Yeah, exactly right. Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what they're going to get from game to game. So how do you think we're going to fare? I know it's early days, but we've got another match in between. But how do you think we'll get on against them?
To be honest, I'm more worried about the United match than I am about the Chelsea game. I think United on the counter, they're as good as anyone. To be honest, and I think we've seen that when they played Liverpool, when they played Man City, when they played Spurs. You know that if they get their tails up, I think they've got players that can hurt you, and they've got players that like to score against the big sides as well. I think Rashford is a proper big game player, and he's sunk us before in the past. When we were, sort of trying to build up a head of steam and stuff like that. So I'm quite worried about that United game, just because I think, we've seen it as well. Our players just seem to get a mental block when we play United. Like, I think, 2 seasons ago, we absolutely played them off the park and still managed to lose 3-1. De Gea making like 15 saves or something in that game. It's just like their players turn up and they like to beat Arsenal. So yeah, I'm not too sure how that will turn out. But I'm hoping that we'll be a bit more clinical than we have been in the past few weeks. So I think we will get chances, but it's just a case of us, sort of putting them away for once.
I think we against Bournemouth, I think we really missed, and he's only 18, but we missed Martinelli, because if we'd have had Aubameyang in the centre and had Martinelli on the left, I think things could have been a different story the other day. But when I don't want to say we're relying on that kid because he's only 18, like I said, but at the moment, I think his attitude is just incredible. I think he's just so infectious to the players around him as well. So yeah, I think he could be back, obviously, and make a big difference against them. Ken, I don't know, just briefly, what are your thoughts about the upcoming games? How do you think we're going to fare?
I do have concerns, because I think what's happened is, if you look at Chelsea games quickly, the games, the thing with Chelsea, there's negatives and positives in playing them. The negatives for Chelsea, obviously, is that at Stamford Bridge, they played 2 teams that have put 2 banks of 4 against them, like Southampton and Bournemouth, and that's why they struggled. They've been hitting the counter-attack a couple of times. I don't think that's our strengths, really.
Yeah.
One of the things we need to watch out with Chelsea as well, we can't let them do what they can against Spurs. The best players in the field were Willian, Kante, and Mount, where they took control of they're on the front foot against Tottenham. We can't let them do that. That's where Xhaka and Mesut Ozil have to turn up to the party, because that is where they're going to earn their money. So for that, and our strikers will be clinical. We do that and we get on the front foot against Chelsea and get them turned around, we can beat them. Man United is going to be a lot harder, because in Parisian is that they've got very good defensively, even though I know a lot of people criticising Maguire and what Wan-Bissaka on their day, they can be very good. And Luke Shaw's kind of a bit of form. But again, it's the counter-attack. They're like a machine. They're like a train, you know what I mean? So that's one thing you definitely got to worry about. And for God's sake, I just hope Daniel James doesn't play. Jesus Christ, so you need about 10 people on a motorbike to catch that lad. I mean, I've never seen anyone that fast. I thought Bale was quick until I saw this lad. But
he's lightning,
one of the things is it's Ozil and Xhaka need to turn up those games. They need to control the tempo of both those games. They do that, and our strikers are clinical. I don't see a reason why we can't get 6 points, but there's things to worry about. Yeah,
see, the thing that worries me, especially with United, is that City got turned over by United, didn't they, not too long ago? So, I don't know. What do you think? And the reason I mentioned that, of course, is obviously with the Arteta link, and
Man United have actually turned up in some big games this season. We couldn't beat them at Old Trafford. They beat Man City. The only team to get anything out of Liverpool this season was Man United, a draw. So it'll be tough. But I want to mention 2 players, because I feel that they have got 2 players that can hurt us. I'll start with Chelsea, because we got them first. I think I'm right in saying, for me personally, he's one of my favourite ever Premier League players, N'Golo Kante. Now, people who do not like or appreciate N'Golo Kante clearly know nothing about football, because this guy is one of the best players that I've ever seen in that position. He's definitely the best in the world in the moment, in my opinion. But I'm struggling to think of ever who is there out there that is as good or better than him, because this guy is so good. It is scary. And I watched the game that Kenny Ken's talking about in terms of when they played Tottenham. people went on about Willian and Mount. They were great. Kante was by far the best. It was scary how good that guy was. And I've seen so many times now when this guy just controls a football game and Chelsea don't lose. And if he turns up to the party, then we won't beat Chelsea. I'll tell you that now, because he is so good. It is unreal. It's just how easy he makes it for everybody else around him. He controls the game, not just the midfield, the whole game. He controls the tempo of the game. He can see where people need to be. So he's so intelligent, in my opinion, that he sees what side of the pitch to go to. Is that detailed with how well he is in terms of his intelligence on a football field. So for me, if N'Golo Kante decides that he wants to turn up at the Emirates, then we will be in trouble. And the other game against Man United, believe it or not, has not played many games this season, but you know he will be fit, and his name is Paul Pogba. And every time he comes to the Emirates, he causes us massive issues. Now, I don't like the guy, and I think he has got an amazing amount of technical ability, but he doesn't always turn up. But you know that he'll turn up against Arsenal. He was fit at Old Trafford. He hasn't played a game since then, but he's going to be fit against Arsenal because they reckon that literally a couple of weeks he'll be back to full fitness. And when he does turn up, we struggle. Saying that, I have seen enough positives to think that we're improving. I still haven't seen enough in that one game yesterday to feel that we'll take 3 points or 6 points off of United or Chelsea. So for me, we haven't got that one world-class player that can control a football game like Chelsea and Man United have. And I think Pogba and Kante can do that. So that would be where I feel we may struggle. If I'm honest with you, I know it sounds pessimistic. I'd take 2 points now out of both games. I really would. The way that we're playing at this season, I don't think it would be a horrendous situation to take a point off of both those sides. But listen, it's horrible saying that because I love to beat Chelsea and United, but I've got to be realistic, boys. And I think if those players do turn up, I think we're going to find it very difficult.
I mean, the only thing I'd say to give us any kind of hope is that last season when we turned over Man United and their amazing run came to an end, we're the ones that ended it, weren't we, at 2-0? And I wouldn't have given us a 1 in 100 chance to doing that at that particular point. We were so poor at the time. They were absolutely flying, and we turned them over 2-0. And one thing I'd say, it's very early days for Arteta. None of us can say exactly how he's going to be, but I've just got, I don't know, I've just got a feeling he's very tactically aware, and I just hope that he'll come up with a good solution, because I fancy our chances against Chelsea. I really do. I think they're really low at the moment, confidence-wise, and I think that's a big part when they've got such a young team. Yes, they've got Kante, and I totally agree. He's amazing. I mean, the only one I can think of in the history is Makelele, and that he's so good that they named the position after him, didn't they? I mean, he was a phenomenal player. But yeah, I think he's probably the best since then. If he's as good as him, I can't really say. But Makelele was immense at that point. But Carrie Tannen's put another question on, saying if Ceballos is available, should he play and replace Ozil? I touched on that earlier. I really do rate Ceballos. I really do. And I know I'm quite a small minority of people that rate him, but I think he's a real good player there. He's eating crisps, by the way. Anyway.
What is that noise?
I don't know. But I think Ceballos he shouldn't replace Ozil. I think because like I said earlier, I think he should sit deep and be the one to collect the ball and distribute the ball from sort of a deeper position and stay around there, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think it's his working to his strengths to play further up the field like a number 10. I don't know what you guys think, but I really think that he's got a lot to offer in that position. If he's fit, should he come back into the team? Ryan, what do you think? I'd love to see him personally.
I'd ease him back in, but I'd like to see him back in the team fully, but not straight away. Like ease him back in, give him a few minutes. Depending how bad the injury has been for him, and how much training he has between coming back into the next match. If he's about plenty of training, yeah, why not? Give him 60 minutes run out, take him off. If not, they bench him and then bring him on for the last half hour. Get him ease him in that way. I don't want to do what we've done in the past. Bring someone comes back from injury, just throw him back in, give him full 90 minutes, and they get another injury, and they're out for even longer. So as long as they ease them in, it's man managed right. I have no problem with Ceballos because, again, like yourself, I do rate Ceballos. I do think there's something there. Especially now with Arteta and how he coaches players, by the looks of it, we can sort of get that out of him.
I think that. We've lost Ken. I think that Arteta's going to like Ceballos. I think he's his type of player, personally. Going to change the subject quickly because I need to start wrapping up, guys. But should we be concerned, Dan, about Arteta's comments regarding Xhaka, about how much he loved him when he was at Man City? And do you think that we've been conned for the last 4 years, and Xhaka's actually a good player in disguise?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've been conned, right? I think it's interesting the comments that he's made, because I think, you know, what he said was, at the time he thought, you know, he's a big admirer of Xhaka, and he thought he was one of the players that he would have liked to sign for City. And I think City had been looking for that kind of player for a while. I think they tried to get Jorginho in, they tried to get Fred in as well. So, you know, they've been looking for that sort of centre mid before they got Rodri in. And I think, you know, I think he has to say those things, because obviously he wasn't at the club when all of that stuff's happening with Xhaka and the fans and stuff like that. So, you know, I think he's got to say those things because he's a valuable squad member. But I think what else has come out is Xhaka's agent said today that you know, Arteta said that publicly, but then behind the scenes said he can go in the summer. So, you know, I think it was just sort of him trying to keep him here for another 6 months, you know, just because we might not be able to get a replacement in January. So, you know, I think everyone knows that Xhaka needs to go, and he wants to go. So, you know, we want players at the club who want to play for the club. So, you know, if he wants to go, that's fine. And I don't think Arteta's going to necessarily stand in his way. But I think it's just about us getting a sufficient replacement in once he does go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know whether these rumours of Hertha Berlin are true. I don't think none of us will know that until it actually happens. But what are your thoughts finally then, Potsy, on Xhaka, the Xhaka situation?
Man, I've got a lot of thoughts on Granit Xhaka. No, in all seriousness, he's not a shocking footballer, but he has a shocking error in him. And I can't forgive people that make the same errors every season. And we saw it yesterday. You know, it was the backing off. Oh, they've scored. Man, go to attack that guy. Don't back off. Go to him. And he doesn't do it. He's got no sense of danger. He's very erratic, and he's not very spatially aware. He has a good pass on him, has a good left foot. But for me, I would take the money. And whatever we get for Granit Xhaka, for me, get him off and out of the club. I believe there is a problem within the dressing room at this club. And I believe there are a few senior players that I would like to see the back of. And I believe that there is a kind of divide in the dressing room. And you've got the kind of German players and the Kolasinac and the Xhaka, David Luiz. And then you've got the little French connection. They don't seem to get on. And for me, you've got Lacazette, Aubameyang and Guendouzi that don't seem to get on with Ozil, Mustafi, Xhaka, Kolasinac, and all these players. So for me, some of those senior players need to go now. And I would rather see players come through the youth than players who make mistakes week in, week out. And Xhaka is one of those. So if we can get some money for him, get him off the wage bill, that would be good. I personally respect the way that he has come back. I didn't want to see him in an Arsenal shirt after what he did, but I do think he has actually given his all when he has come back. I think he was one of the better players yesterday, but I would not cry to see him go. And you know what? I said this earlier to one of the lads. I said this to Manny. I actually would not cry if any of these players left. And that's not many times I've said that over the years. So I include Aubameyang, Lacazette into that because I believe that there are players out there we can replace them with. So I wouldn't cry if any of these players left, but these senior players need moving on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this Martinelli, I definitely want to keep. I'll keep keep Guendouzi. I'll keep a lot of the academy kids to see how they get on, because a lot of them are very hopeful. But the rest, I've got no attachment to any of them, to be perfectly honest. I agree with you. So I'll be happy to lose any of them. And if it's true that Thomas Partey has got a £50 million release clause, it's an absolute no-brainer. If we can get anywhere near, say, 30 million for Xhaka, I mean, why wouldn't you and go for someone like that? Because he seems to be an ideal solution for us. Right, we're going to have to start sort of finishing now. So, Ken, just a quick one with you. What are you realistic? Let's go for a realistic score predictions then for the next two games, Chelsea and Man United. What do you think that we're going to get out of those? And then perhaps we can reconvene after the events and we'll see how we got on.
Chelsea, Arsenal 2, Chelsea 2.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal 1, Man United 3.
Oh, wow.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, Ryan?
Arsenal, Chelsea, I say 3-2 Arsenal. Because we don't do clean sheets. That'd be 3-2 Arsenal. And Man United, New Year's Day, 3-1 Arsenal.
Wow. Bold. Bold. Yeah, very bold. Dan?
I'm going to go Arsenal 2-1 to Chelsea. I think we'll scrape that win, but yeah, no clean sheet. And then I think it will be another 1-1 draw with United at the Emirates.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Potsy?
I'm gonna go. I know, man. I know. It's gonna cost you. But all right, listen. I'm gonna go 2 draws. I'm gonna go 2-2 Arsenal Chelsea, and I'm gonna go 1-1 Arsenal United.
I'm going to be confident against Chelsea. I think we're going to win 2-1. I agree with Dan. And God, it's so tough against United because you never know. My heart is saying we'll lose 2-1 to United, unfortunately. But I'd rather have that, a 1 win and a loss, rather than 2 draws, because it's 1 extra point. So let's look on the plus side of that. Anyway, but yeah, thanks ever so much to you guys. I'm going to have to bring it to a close. Everyone watching, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for all the comments. It's been really good and entertaining. Please give us a thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Hit the notifications button. Now, guys, how can everyone get hold of you on social media, etc.? So, Dan, you've got your profile obviously on your screen, but for those that are just listening to the audio, how can they get hold of you?
Yep, at Dan Cougs on all platforms. That's Insta and Twitter. But more importantly, follow at Tapping Football on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's my podcast that I do with a few of my mates as well.
Seriously, guys, if you haven't listened to it, please give it a listen. And it's really, really good. The guys that you've got on there with you as well, because Dan's a bit shit, obviously, but all these colleagues. No, I'm joking. Honestly, the analysis, I think, is really, really interesting. Really good stuff. I really recommend Tapping Football, the podcast. Potsy, about yourself?
So to follow me on Twitter, it's on my Twitter handle here, which is at DanArsenal87. If you want to listen to more of me on podcasts, then please go to the Same Old Arsenal, where you will be listening to myself, Lee Judges, Harry Simu, Craig Scott, and Graham Brooks, and we do that every Monday around about 7 to 7:30. So the Same Old Arsenal, and I am a bit part of the Guns and Yellow Ribbons as well. So that's at Guns and Ribbons on Twitter or Guns and Yellow Ribbons on Facebook.
Both great podcasts as well. Again, highly recommend those. And Ryan, yours, another one I recommend. Well, I do. I mean, I listen to them all, so I can say that with my hand on my heart.
Yeah, well, my Twitter handle is on the screen, but I say it as well, at Mr. Arsenal89. And as you said, my podcast channel on YouTube is the Mr. Arsenal Podcast.
Fantastic. Excellent. Kenny Ken, how can people follow you and listen to you and so on and so forth?
Right, my Twitter handle's at KennyKen1972, as is my Instagram, where I put a few videos on. You know, I try and they're all 1 minute, so I don't last long. And Sonny Unfiltered has taken pity on me, and he's asked me to, you know, give more contributions towards Sonny Unfiltered. So he's made me a part of that. Apart from that, I'm basically a stowaway, and I'm a refugee who basically waits to be asked to go on other people's shows.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know whether you still are so often, but you always used to be seen on AFTV all the time as well, didn't you, Ken?
Yeah, I think we don't talk about that. I think AFTV's had a few bit of bad press, and
Oh, bless you.
I don't know whether I'm going to come home in one piece, whether I'm going to be shouted at, or someone's going to hit me with a steak fork because of my association.
Well, like I said, thanks to everyone that's watching. Carrie Tannen, Terry Mancini, Carrie Tannen, Tony Turner, Stan the Man, and Gunner Talk, the Psycho, all of you. Really thanks for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you all. Hopefully, watching on the 30th, which is the next show that we've got coming up in 3 days' time after the Chelsea game. So, take care, all. Thanks ever so much for joining us.
Cheers, mate.
Take
Cheers,
care.
boys.
Bye bye.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys. Enjoy me time.
Happy Christmas.